Lakshan, thank you for joining me on Connections today. Political prisoners, it's a long-standing issue, and we've seen over the years and months people have been calling for the release of political prisoners and even hunger strikes. And in May this year, the government announced that it will in fact be expediting the process, the legal process to release these people, and towards that there have been talks of establishing courts in areas like Vaunia, Mena, and somewhere else too. So I want to ask you, how realistic all this sound?
Yeah, first we must commend the government initiative to start these courts, or at least to have willingness to expedite. All these years there was no willingness to expedite. It was dragging for a longer period, and the main issue you may even seen that the continuous protest in Kalutara and in Anuradhapura, in Vaunia, CRP, magazine, various places, because they felt this prolonged and endless detention, which is a very clear violation of human rights. If you take the Supreme Court judgments on the Anuruddha Ratwatte case and Thilanga Sumathipala case, or Sanjay Gandhi versus State of Delhi case, the judiciary has identified the prolonged detention is a violation of human rights or fundamental rights, and it's the violation of private liberties. So everybody who are detained feel that their liberties are being violated. So it's obvious that people come out and protest for release, or charge me or discharge me. That's the most of the human rights case or fundamental rights case we are filing the Supreme Court. But we say charge me or discharge me, because I am detention for a long time without charges. Right? So that is number one. Number two, the queries we have. That is how practical this is. Now, according to the Supreme Court, according to the Constitution, it says the 13. I would like to read it. It says Article 13(3) says. Any person charged with an offence shall be entitled to be heard in person or by an attorney at law at a fair trial by a competent court. So fair trial is the prime thing in this case. To have a fair trial, you must have a best legal support to get law. Now, especially a kind of a case like PTA cases, which need a lot of legal knowledge, experience, and also those are usually cases that take a lot of time.
Right.
You need best lawyers.
Right.
So setting up courts in Anuradhapura, Mena or Vaunia, creating a query or a question mark, how far you can get good lawyers or even access to lawyers, how soon you get access to lawyers, because some prisoners there, they even haven't contacted their families. There's no access to their families for many years. So how can they retain a lawyer within a short period or even a given period? So this is some practical issue. And then also the issue of the participation of judiciary. Now, we are not clear whether they are going to set up new courts with new judges, or the judges just or the judicial officers are existing in those courts are going to hear these cases as well. And then what's going to be the ongoing caseload and the new caseload, and then will there be enough capacity to have a proper hearing and fair trial? So fair trial is a prime in this new setting up. We should not fix courts just to eyewash or because sake of doing it. Right? We must ensure the fair trial of it.
Right. So as you say, there is still no clarity related to these hearings, proposed hearings, and also it's very important, as you say, the need for a fair trial. Now, provided all this happens, beginning from June this year, what will all this mean in terms of resolving the issue of political prisoners in Sri Lanka?
Okay. Now, one thing. Okay, if they start as they promise, if they start the hearings in June or maybe July, now you need time to access lawyers, retain lawyers, give your entire case to them, lawyers to study it back, and then come with their counter submissions or their submissions, right? And it will take long time. That's number one. Number two is that these prisoners also have to find some, finances Now, in Sri Lanka, there are very few organizations that provide legal aid for PTA detainees. Now, one of the main body, that is the Legal Aid Commission, in many places, Legal Aid Commission does not provide legal aid for the PTA, except for one special case that is in Kilnochi. With the support of NRC, they provide legal aid.
Why is that, Lakshan?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it should be a policy of the Legal Aid Commission. But I feel Legal Aid Commission should give legal aid for PTA accused as well, or LTT suspects as well. Because until they are convicted, they have this very specific clause in the Constitution says the presumption of innocence. The presumption of innocence is a world-renowned concept, right? So therefore, Legal Aid Commission should provide, but it's not happening except for small space in Kilnochi. Other organizations that provide legal aid are places like Center for Human Rights and Development, CHRD, and Home for Human Rights. And there should be more civil society participation if the government wants to go for this sort of plan, because these detainees are entitled for legal assistance, are entitled for retaining lawyers, entitled for fair trial. So I don't see there's any practicality in this quick this thing. But if government wants, they can discuss with the Bar Association, all the legal aid providing organizations, and even with the international community, and give them a chance to have a good lawyer, because PTA cases are special cases, not like just other cases. You know, there are special applications like voir dire, which a lawyer must be competent to have that sort of thing. So there are so many other things, because in the PTA case, you can take your statement, the state can take the statement of you against you, which is not applicable in the other general cases. So it's a very special law. So therefore, I think while commending the government in its willingness to create special courts, there must be more space for PTA detainees to access justice, access lawyers, and have a fair trial.
Right. Now, these detainees, some term them as political prisoners. They're generally termed as political prisoners. However, the government recently, the leader of the House, in fact, did state that there are no political prisoners in the country and only LTT suspects, terrorists. How do you view this?
Yeah, I'm very clear about it. Now, I have no clear definition or interpretation for terrorism. For me, terrorist is one who terrorized me. So whoever terrorized me is terrorist for me. I think it's a kind of a very vague interpretation when you come to terrorist. Terrorist can be anybody for any person for anybody, if you take in the world scenario. And then in the Sri Lankan context, these people again, as I said earlier, they have the right of this presumption of innocence until they are convicted. I don't call them terrorists. They have been detained for as a suspect, as they were involved in political activities of political nature, or suspect that they are involved in a political nature. It is up to the judiciary to decide whether they are part of this thing or not. And then only you can think of whether you are going to label them as a terrorist or not. When they proved very clearly that you involved in something on the nature of terrorism, and then they have to have an appeal process, the final appeal process. Once the final appeal process is completed, then you can say, okay, these are terrorists. But again, I have very careful not to call anybody in this world a terrorist, because it's a very careful terminology I have to use. I should not use that terminology in vague manner. So I feel, in my opinion, they are all political prisoners. Still, because their cases have not been heard properly, or they are not charged yet, and then they are not convicted. So it's very wrong if someone is label them as a terrorist or LTT
Suspects.
Terrorists. We can't call them. They are suspects. They are suspects for activities of political nature, whether we like it or not. That's
Right.
this is my definition.
Okay. But I want to ask you next, we're talking about these people who have been languishing in prisons for many, many years. And most of the time people are talking about the caseload during the wartime, post 2009 and so on. But there's an old caseload as well. Are these being taken up as well when we talk about political prisoners, and how important rather is it to, bring
You're
all
referring to
these
the caseload of other cases? Or only,
70s, 80s, the insurrections during the JVP. There have been other times too when people have been taken into custody under the PTA, which has been in place since the 1970s, 1979.
I don't know whether there are cases from the JVP time, but there can be cases like that. There can be some cases which they have brought it, we have charged and set aside,
Right.
right? Now this is also kind of a danger because anytime you can take it back, those cases, right? For various reasons, sometimes the accused may be not in the country, or you can't find the accused, but there are still the cases going on. So there can be some cases. So I think mainly on these such cases, even government cannot do anything because if the accused is not in presence. But if it is possible, all these prolonged cases must be taken in these special courts. But my continuous plea is that they must have a fair trial.
Right.
To have a fair trial, the accessibility to the legal justice should be there. Without that, there's no fair trial.
And Laksha, now all these arrests and detentions have been possible because of certain pieces of legislation which have been in place and are still in place. The emergency law, which was only relaxed in September 2011, and the PTA, where they have added further regulations into the PTA. How do you see these emergency laws and the PTA?
It's the same vessel with different wine, in my opinion. Like the same law is going on, that is PTA, the words and the draconian law in Sri Lanka. Only what they did is they relaxed the emergency laws and amalgamated into the PTA. PTA is one of the worst laws in Sri Lanka.